The 2024 NFL QB class is very interesting. There's a lot of good prospects coming up, but there's quite a few boomer bust guys too. It's going to be very interesting looking back on it 2 or 3 years, but it's not 2 or 3 years yet in the future, so we're just going to look at it from the perspective of right now, and we're just going to jump right into it. Now, before we do, hold on. I do have predictions in here on where I think they'll go, what teams, but these aren't set. I really think Caleb Williams is going to go 1 to the Bears now, and that does change the whole trajectory of this draft. So just keep that in mind, but let's just get right into it. And with my number 1 QB in this class, I have Caleb Williams. I did originally project him to the Commanders, but I know that that's most likely not how it's going to be. He's 6'1", 215, and he is very good. He is very good with his passes. He can pass very well. He has elite patience, but the problem with his patience is that sometimes he can hold on to the ball too long, but at the same time, that could be bad depending on where he goes in the NFL. If holding on to the ball too long, he's not going to be allowed to do that with some teams. The Bears look like they have bolstered up their O-line a bit, but if he does fall to the Commanders, he might struggle heavily. I think anyone would with the Commanders, to be honest. But his footwork is a little weak too, and some people are worried about his height, but at 6'1", I think he should be fine. But he is definitely the set in stone 1 pick in my opinion. He's been that way since last year too, and everyone is starting to think, well, maybe he falls to 2 or 3, or falls even before that. Except the same thing is what people were saying with Trevor Lawrence, and I'm not saying Caleb's gonna end up like Trevor Lawrence, but it's just because people just want to reach and say new things and take hot takes just for the purpose of having hot takes or even rage bait. But going on to my second QB in the class, he is a big boomer bust guy in my opinion, but Drake May. He's 6'4", 230, so he definitely has good size. He's very athletic, and I think he's the second best QB in this class. He has so much upside, but he could end up being absolute terrible. But I still think he can be a very good QB. And who knows, maybe a random guy, maybe Jordan Travis ends up the best QB in this class. But I think that Drake May has some of the most potential in this class, while, still having a big chance of bust, to be a bust. He can operate within structure. He's a very good passer. He has good arm strength, good accuracy, and he's very athletic and quick, especially for being 6'4" and 230. But he really can make a bad play even worse, and I think that's definitely one of the things he struggles with, and that he's going to be knocked on a lot for, is sometimes, okay, he might have to eat a sack, but he'll try to extend it too much, and now instead of a 5-yard sack, he eats a 10-yard sack, or he can even end up throwing a pick off of it. And a lot of people talk about how he didn't play in the SEC or play a lot of competition, but I don't take that too much into consideration. He also didn't have a lot of help. His number 1 receiver, Tez Walker, missed 4 games, and that UNC team was not very strong. But he still managed to win a lot of games, and he was still very solid. So I don't really knock him on the competition part, because it's not like he was playing with elite players on his team either. But going on to our next QB, I have Jayden Daniels, and obviously if the Bears do go QB, he'll end up also being in the top 3. But in my original mock, I didn't have the Bears taking QB, except I think they will now. But he's 6'4", 210. He's very athletic and has very good burst of agility and speed. And he can definitely manage in the pocket. That's one of the things. But one of his knocks is that he does have a very skinny frame, and he definitely does need to put on a bit more muscle and weight and to try to build out his frame a little more. Otherwise, injuries could be a big problem for him. And that's definitely something that, teams are going to look at. He also can struggle to drive the ball in tight windows, tight throws. He is not very good at, and definitely needs to work on. And his accuracy is a bit weaker when it comes to short and medium throws, but he is a very accurate and good deep ball thrower, and I think he can definitely become very good in the league. And he's not as much of a boomer bust guy, I'd say, like Drake May or even J.J. McCarthy, but we'll talk more about him later. But I think that he is still going to be very good. And moving on to our next guy is Bo Nix. he definitely has one of the higher floors in this draft class, while still having a pretty high ceiling. I think he can definitely become a good player. He's 6'2", 218, and he's very athletic, and he's good in the open field too. And he has a very good creation ability. When he's outside the pocket, he can break structure and extend plays very well. Like how Drake May will try to do that, and sometimes he hits a good big play, but some other times he just makes it way worse. But the thing that a lot of people are questioning about Bo Nix is the fact that he didn't throw a lot of NFL concepts in college. And that's something people are like, well, maybe he can't process the field as well and stuff like that. And his footwork is a bit inconsistent, and sometimes it can throw his throws off. Even though he has a very good arm when it comes to passes, he can really level and layer his passes over players and behind players. And he has a very good arm, but there are a lot of concerns if he can read the field well and how well he could handle NFL concepts. But I still think he's going to be very good. And moving on to our next guy, who I think is a bigger boomer bust player, is J.J. McCarthy. He's one of the youngest guys in this class for the QBs, while everyone else is about 23, 24. I know there's one guy, I think it's either Michael Penix or I think it's him who's going to be 25, or it's Jordan Travis who's going to be 25 by the time his rookie season starts. But he's one of the younger guys in the class, McCarthy is, and he's very raw. And the thing is, a lot of people talk about how he wasn't asked to pass it a lot at Michigan, but I don't really take that into too big of consideration, just because when he did throw, he could definitely make throws, but he didn't really have to do that at Michigan because they were such a good team and had such a good run game. But he is definitely a big boomer bust guy. There's not as much film to watch on him as there is like a guy at Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix. But he is very boomer bust, and he is a very raw prospect, but I think he can definitely be good in the league. Like, all of these guys can be good in the league. It just depends how they're developed and how they do turn out, because they could just fall off a cliff. But some of the negatives about McCarthy is that he has good arm talent, but it's not great. It's not elite. He can't really level his throws with accuracy, but he shows a lot of flashes, and he shows some ability to create from outside the pocket. And he has solid accuracy, but it's just if he can really level those throws, he's not as good of a passer as Bo Nix is in this class. And he has average ability, or even below average ability, to throw late in the down or from uncomfortable platforms, so off balance, stuff like that. And a lot of people are concerned about how well he can go through his reads and progress through his reads. He's very good at hitting his first read, but when your first read's open all the time because you're in the Michigan offense, a lot of these other guys could do that too. But I think that he can still become a very good QB. I feel like he does go to the Vikings. No matter if the Bears do end up going QB or not, I think he will fall to the Vikings. But moving on to our last guy in this video is Michael Penix Jr. And he was very good throughout college, but he does have a big injury concern. He's 6'2", 212. He has great arm strength too, and that's definitely one of his biggest parts of his game, is that he does have a really strong throw, and he can really send it deep. And sometimes he does throw, or he does show progression ability to go through reads, but it's only flashes of that. He does struggle with that too, but he is a very athletic player, and he can tuck it and run when he has to and get good gains and pick up big downs. And he does show that he can handle NFL concepts, but it's if he can go through his reads correctly is what people are more concerned about. And he's willing to attack tight windows, and he has a very good deep ball accuracy like Jaden Daniels does. And he can drop it in the bucket, in the breadbasket, back shoulder, and he can toss up winnable 50-50 balls. And I think all of these QBs in this class have very good upside to turn out good. It's just whether they get the right development, that they will turn out good or not. But thank you guys who did come and watch this video, and I hope you guys stick around for more NFL, NHL, and maybe even some MLB content. I'm going to be looking a lot at the NFL offseason these next couple weeks, and I will end up releasing a mock draft. Thank you for watching this. Please follow for more, and I hope to see you guys around again.